Hi all you fantastic people. This is a video about brain health and our metabolism. And this is an area I'll be talking more and more about in the next months, years maybe, who knows. It is very, very fascinating. The more I learn about this, the more I want to share it. And it is also totally encouraging for us because, as we know very well, we human beings are not well. I mean, the human population of the earth is becoming sicker and sicker by the day, and it can be very, very overwhelming and very frightening. And for many of us, it gets so bad that we can really, our lives are really ruined. And one of the main problems is that we have learned a whole lot of things over the last decades. All these books that have been written, all these doctors who've told us all these things, all this information we've been given, which we've sort of collected and we think it's true. And really, when it comes down to the crunch, it's really, a lot of it is not true. So one thing is that we have been misinformed. And that's what I'm going to sort of go into more and more. So keep it simple, sweetheart. Let's just keep this process really, really simple. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a vet. Somebody asked me, are you a vet? No. I'm a human being, and I've had chronic illness ever since I was a baby. And I've learned so much on my journey, and I've healed so much. I might be in a healing process all my life, who knows, but as I go I learn more and more, and as I go I heal more and more. So whatever you can use from this is really, really wonderful, and maybe there's a little bit of this you can use, maybe you can use it all. Yeah, if I can help one person, it's just wonderful. So this is about brain health, and I think it is a very important topic, and I also think it is a very useful topic because when we don't feel well on our journey through life, when we have a sore finger, it's very uncomfortable, but we don't think much about it, and we might just put a band-aid on and it will go away usually. But when we start to experience problems with our mind, maybe we can't remember very well. I know for myself, I've had a very bad memory ever since I was little. So names I couldn't remember, and all lots of things I just could not remember, and I just got used to it and I just accepted it because that was the way it was. And we can experience memory loss, we can experience depression, anxiety. We see with the children who have autism, ADHD, ADD, which is just becoming, I mean, so common that it's just incredible. And then as many people, they live with depression and anxiety all their lives, and it's becoming more and more common too. It's really more or less normal because so many people are suffering from this. And then as we age, we become demented. And this is something that was not here 200 years ago. I mean, so something obviously is completely wrong in our head. And so what I want to say now, which is really one of the basic rules of natural healing, is that the mind and the body are utterly, totally connected. If you do something to have healthy teeth, you will help your brain be healthy. If you do something to heal your gut, you will heal your brain. If you have a leaky gut, you have a leaky brain. Everything in our body is completely connected with everything. So the whole thing of, oh, I'm going to really do something good for my liver, well, you can't, because you will be doing something good for your whole body if you're doing something good for your liver. So everything is completely interconnected. And we have genes, and one of the lies we have learned, or the things we have learned, is that your genetic makeup is really controlling how healthy you are. But the thing is, genes can be turned on and turned off with the way we live. So the genetic makeup that we are born with is actually not a constant. Well, first of all, it's not a constant because it's changing all the time. But we can switch on and switch off our genes. So we can't even really use that excuse or that explanation that it's because it's in my family. Because how you live will really predict how you feel and how you are all through your body. So some people have more with their brain, some people have more with their joints. We're just all different. But the wonderful, wonderful, encouraging thing is that what this whole subject of how we burn the energy, what food we eat, the thing is, it is so simple, because when we get our metabolism right, we actually can, we reverse all these things and we help our body heal in our joints, in our brain, in our gut, everywhere. We help the healing process be switched on properly, become optimal. So there's never a guarantee of anything, and as I've said many times before, it's not only what you eat, but this is major. This is really major. And so we can help ourselves with the way we live, with the way we eat, but as I've said so many times before, the emotional aspect of our well-being, of our health, is we mustn't forget, because we are a mental body, we are an emotional body, we are a spiritual body, and we're a physical body. So that is also all interconnected. So what is it that is so interesting about the brain? Well, let's just go back to the whole thing about metabolism, because the thing is, our body is built so that it can live off sugar, off carbohydrates, and it can also live off fat. And why is this? Well, as I see it, that's just what I have sensed, from what I have learned, is that throughout our evolution, human beings were living off meat and fat as really the main part of their diet when we were hunter-gatherers. And as we evolved, and as really the animals decreased in number, and especially for the people living around the equator, we realized that we could start producing food ourselves. We didn't have to go and hunt, so we could produce these carbohydrate-rich foods. So, but also in this time of being a hunter-gatherer, we would live off fat and protein. But then in the springtime, in the summer months, would come the plants, and then would come the berries and things that we could go and pick, and also a little bit of tubers which have starch in them. So there were periods when we were hunter-gatherers where there would be more carbohydrates, and so our body learnt to use mainly fat and protein most of the year. But then when the carbohydrates came in nature, we would be able to burn that, so that it's very efficient. Our body is super efficient. And as time went on, we became farmers, and we got more and more carbohydrates. Some people of the earth got very used to using carbohydrates, and like, for instance, the Chinese, a lot of the Asian people, they were used to having lots of carbohydrates, and in a healthy body where there's no metabolic problems, that works really well, and these people can live a really long lifespan. So anyway, we can talk about this a real lot, but our cells are able to get energy from sugar, from carbohydrates, and from fat and protein, or just fat. So this is a wonderful mechanism we have, and the two work differently. So we will, of course, always be getting, what they say is really, there are essential proteins and essential fats that the body needs. Body has to have to survive and to live well. But there are no essential carbohydrates. So the carbohydrates people have become used to were really, in a way, because there was nothing else. So, and it is possible, but it's not essential. So essentially we need the fat and the protein for our body to survive. So the body will always be burning both, but it will be in a metabolic state where it's burning one the most. So either you're burning most carbs and a little bit of fat, or most fat and a little bit of carbs. So it's two different ways of your cells working. So you can choose to go into a fat burning state so that you reduce your carbohydrates and you increase your fat and your protein consumption. So going back to the brain, it's all connected to that. So what they found out with, I'll show you these really amazing brain scans that show people who have these conditions in their brain, Alzheimer's, anorexia, depression, anxiety, all these conditions, ADHD, you can see it on these SPECT scans, they're called. And this is a scan of the brain that shows the blood flow, how the blood is flowing. And of course, the more the blood is flowing, the better the blood is flowing, the better the brain is functioning. So what they found out with these scans is that these people who have these conditions have holes in this blood flow. There are areas of their brain where there is no blood flow. So this is what I think is so fascinating, that whether you have depression, anxiety, it could be insomnia, anorexia, ADHD, dementia, doesn't matter. It's all lack of blood flow in the brain. So the brain needs energy, and the brain is our brains are, I mean, we are the mammals on the earth with the hugest brain, because we are very intelligent and really we have brilliant minds. But for us to express our brilliance with our mind, we need nourishment. So 20% of the energy of our system is needed by the brain. And so the brain can run on sugar and carbohydrates, or it can run on fat. And so this is it's a different way it works, of course, chemically. So when the brain is running on sugar, we need the insulin. So when we have our carbohydrates, we have all this sugar running in our blood, we need the hormone called insulin to actually get the energy into our cells. And so, as I've explained before, which I'll explain many times because it's good to just repeat it, when we have an excess of carbohydrates in our body, in our diet, and also the stresses that we experience, we have a high amount of sugar in our system. And in the beginning, our pancreas can produce enough insulin because the body wants to get all that nourishment that comes from our food into our cellular structure to give it energy. But at a point, the body can see there's too much sugar coming in, and it keeps producing more and more insulin, and at a point the cells say, we cannot take any more sugar because we can't use all that energy. And so it will block out the sugar by the cells becoming insulin resistant. So they won't take in the energy, and that is why these brains become malnourished. It's because the sugar, the energy in the blood cannot come into the brain, because the insulin resistant is blocking. The insulin resistance is blocking the energy from coming into the brain. So then what can you do? The brain is not energized. This person is becoming more and more demented. This child is out of control. This 23-year-old woman is deeply depressed. What do we do? What we do is we know that their body will be very happy to have fat, and actually what they know is that the brain prefers fat. The brain loves fat. The brain works really well with fat. And so we can just take away the sugars which are not essential, and we can just give the person fat and protein. And what these SPECT scans show is that the brain wakes up. And why does the brain wake up? Because it's energized. It's simply because before the brain was not being given nourishment, and now when the fats come into the blood, the brain is nourished, and the depression goes away, the autism goes away, the Alzheimer's is reversed. It might not be completely healed because it depends on how long you've had it for. But this is just so wonderful and so fantastic and really so simple. that when we change our diet, what we put into this hole here, we change our brain, we make it work. And so the chemical process of the brain working on sugar or the brain working on fat is that apparently the brain has to, when we're running on sugar, the sugar is through the insulin, it's pushed into the brain. And this is quite a difficult process for the brain. But when we remove the carbohydrates and the sugar from the blood, and the whole body is completely changed to be fat adapted, so that all the cells, and this is a process that takes 5 to 6 weeks. When this process has happened and we have the body running on fat, the brain will be using all this fat, and the process is that it pulls it in. It's very easy for the brain to access this fat. So we're saving our brains. We are reawakening our brains by doing this with our diet. So I think it's so fascinating, and I think it is this is a subject, the whole thing about our brain health. It's a real driver, because I mean, if you don't have a healthy mind, if you are a young person who's depressed and has anxiety, you're a little kid who can't be in a class, who can't be with people where the brain's not working, or an old person, and even it's the dementia is coming earlier and earlier, so maybe a 50-year-old person has to be in a nursing home for 30 years because their brain's not working. It's so sad. And this, I just think, is is the best that we can, with just by changing how we eat, and a few other things that are important, but the diet is the major thing. We switch on our brain. We switch on the healthy genes, the ones that bring health, and not the ones that bring disease. And as I've said before, diet is not everything, but as I've realized now, diet is a lot. Diet is a real lot, because diet decides how your cells work. And if your cells are given the optimal conditions, of course every single part of you, body, mind and soul, will have the best conditions. And we can do our emotional healing, which really, I believe, is for everyone. We have to do it if we want to get well. We can't just use the diet, but the diet is massive. So we're going to do some videos where I show you these pictures of the SPECT scans, and there's a wonderful keto doctor called Dr. Boz, who you might know, and she shows some of these pictures of people who are living on sugars, how their brain is malnourished, and as soon as they go into the fat adapted state, their brain wakes up. So fascinating, fascinating stuff, and I just love sharing this with you. So have a beautiful day. See you.